Okay, hello and welcome to Devtodev's webinar. This is our newest webinar, one of the many that we dedicate to Devtodev's functionality and how Devtodev works. And during this webinar, we'll talk about the basics. It will be sort of intro to Devtodev. And our host, Anastasia, who is a customer success manager at Devtodev, will walk you through the purpose of product analytics for different team roles, how to apply event-based analytics, and how to track events and how Devtodev tracks events. And also we'll go through the overview of Devtodev's report structure. So Anastasia, looking forward to a presentation and just letting everyone know that we will have the recording of the presentation that you will get, and we'll be answering all the questions after the webinar. So after Anastasia finishes her presentation. So if you have questions, feel free to write them into the chat. So Anastasia, I'm muting my mic and my camera.
Yes, thank you. So today we decided to hold a webinar with fundamental but very important information about Devtodev. Perhaps you're a recent user or considering becoming one, or maybe your company already uses Devtodev and you want to start using it too. In any case, we want to share with you the basics to get started with our platform. And in upcoming webinars, we'll dive deeper into some topics, and we'll also have webinars on advanced topics. So if you have ideas after the webinar about what you would like to learn more, please let us know. You can email me, my email in the chat. Just give me a second. I'll write it down so you can use it. Yeah. And as Alice said before, we will reserve some time at the end of the webinar for questions. So feel free to ask questions in the chat, and Ala and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. You can also mail questions to me, which I have provided in the chat. So let's get started. And today we'll talk in basic terms about roles in the company and how they can solve analytical tasks using Devtodev. After that, I'll explain to you how tracking works in Devtodev, where we can get data from, and then we'll discuss events in more detail and look at some examples to make it clearer for you. And finally, we'll take a look at the structure of reports in Devtodev. Meaning what and where we can find information if we need to answer a specific question. And I'll start by saying that Devtodev can be used by various user groups, each with different tasks. These tasks are solved using available reports and other functionality. The pool of end users is quite broad, ranging from product and UA managers to C-level executives and support managers. On the slide, we have compiled the main roles and the functionality they most often use to solve their tasks. Perhaps we'll stop a bit more on tasks using the example of product manager. So right now, I'll touch on the topic of how product analytics works. We can orient ourselves on the popular framework, the R funnel, which describes the user journey in the product. Accordingly, it starts with acquisition, then comes activation when the user understands the value of the product. Next is user retention, and we end with how the user pays. And product analytics, and specifically Devtodev, covers the entire funnel. But since we want to look at the example with the product manager, let's focus on these stages, as this is what a product manager is responsible for. Their task is to see what happens with users at these stages and understand what they can do to retain these users. So let's assume we are a product manager and our task is to make the product better so that the users stay with us for as long as possible and increases their spendings. The key directions to achieve this goal are to increase conversion to payment and or reduce churn. And typically, a product manager can work in these directions. Here, a bit down on the slide, we have prepared a couple of examples of how a product manager can work with the product in Dev2Dev. Suppose we are looking at retention report and notice that we have a high day zero retention, but retention in subsequent days sharply drops, meaning users aren't returning after installing the product. It's not a great picture. So the product manager starts generating hypotheses and suspects that users don't understand the value of the product. So he decides to add onboarding to convey this value. And after adding onboarding, the manager realizes that retention hasn't changed. It continues to decline after installation. Also, by checking the onboarding conversion, he finds that the conversion rate is very low, for example, 50%. So the product manager starts thinking about what to do to increase conversion, such as reducing the number of onboarding screens from 20 to 5, or adding a purchase option to onboarding, maybe adding questions or checking for bugs in onboarding process. The manager, with the help of product analytics, identifies growth points using data and reports. After that, they generate hypotheses and implement them, evaluating the results of the experiment. I won't stop on this for too long. On the slide, you see the other examples of tasks that require data analysis, both at the preparation stage, for example, of an experiment, and at the stage of analyzing results. So the key idea here is that with the help of product analytics, you can solve a very wide range of product-related tasks. And in the second half of the webinar, I'll demonstrate which reports and tools can be used to solve such tasks. And just briefly before that, I'll stop to explain how Dev2Dev works. So you understand where we get the data from, what you can send, and so on. We have two main sources of data, the SDK and the API. As you can see on the slide, we have SDKs for most popular platforms. And if some data is only available on the server, then the API can be used. Also, we have additional data sources. Firstly, it's attribution data from various acquisition trackers. Secondly, we support all types of monetization, so you can connect mediation platforms and subscriptions, the information of which we will receive directly from the App Store server. This means that information about renewals, trials, etc. will be available in the interface. And after we receive and process all this data, we get various reports, metrics, and dashboards that the end user can use. There is also the possibility to interact with users and send push notifications directly from Dev2Dev based on certain conditions, for example, on those who have performed a specific event. And additionally, there is the ability to conduct A/B tests and test hypotheses. And finally, I'll mention here that it's possible to export data and work with it on your site. And by now, I think you have a clear understanding of where we get our data from. Now, let's talk a little bit about what data we collect. And the most fundamental aspect of our analytics is events. We have two types of events. It's basic and custom events. Basic are predefined. It's already part of the code that describe the most crucial actions in the product, such as payments. Custom events, on the other hand, are events that can be unique to each product. And I'll talk about basic and custom events a bit later. And before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about event-based analytics. Roughly speaking, every user of your product performs some actions in the app or game. For example, user one on the slide started a session, and the latest events are at the bottom of the picture. And then began and completed onboarding, and then made a purchase. It's offer number 4 for $50. These are all different events that we receive from one specific user. And since we have multiple users, we can also see what events we receive from other users. Those we have data from all our users, which we process, aggregate, and ultimately an analyst or product manager can analyze the data and answers their questions. And before I show examples of events that can be used, I'd like to explain what an event with parameter is. It's important for us to have events with parameters, not just events, as this type allow us to obtain more in-depth and right data. So the example will be very simple. Let's consider Instagram. And for example, a user decides to make a post, and we need to send this as a separate event. But besides the fact that the user made a post, we would like to add additional information to it, and these will be parameters. In our example, we can additionally add the parameter post type, whether it's a story or a feed post. What type of content was posted, a photo or a video, and whether there was a text, a location, or a mention. Here, 1 and 0 represents yes and no. There can also be true, false options, but the point here is that this type of parameters can have only two options. And when we receive many such events with parameters, we can understand, for example, what type of content our users post most often, whether they like to tag locations or write text, or do our users mainly prefer to post only videos. And if you look at the slide, we have an example of the post. It's a video story mentioning coffee shop. And if we were to send this event, it would look like this. You can see it in the bottom of the slide. The event post with parameters. Post type story, content type video, no text, location included, and no mention. And why is it important to use events with parameters? Let's imagine that we send an event without parameters, that a post was made. Another separate event that allocation was added. That is, in these events, there would be no additional data, I mean parameters. And in this case, we wouldn't be able to analyze the data together and wouldn't gather a complete picture, because we would simply have data that a certain number of posts were made, but it wouldn't be clear what kind of a post exactly, or we wouldn't know for which posts users added locations. But when working with, with events with parameters, we correlate these parameters and can see that text is often written in stories, but not in feed post, for example. And such data already give us a better understanding of how users interact with our product. And based on this, we can find hypotheses and implement changes. So we have looked a bit at custom events with parameters, and now let's talk about the events used in Dev2Dev. And we can start with the basics. It can be said that basic events are a small piece of code described in the documentation and have a clear structure, a defined set of parameters, and each parameters must be of a certain type. On this slide, we have listed the basic event that we use. These include the payment event, onboarding completion, and subscription event. And let's take a look at the example of a basic payment event. On the left, you can see an example of it with parameters. So we see that a payment event was sent with the parameters purchase ID, price, it's 12, item ID or name of the product, and currency. And if we decode this, it means that the user bought the product no ads for the $12. And it's worth noting again that the structure of such event is predefined, meaning you will need to send these parameters of a certain type anyway. Roughly speaking, if the price parameter is numeric, you won't be able to send a text value. You also can add your own additional parameters. And we build out of the box wrappers based on these basic events. You can simply integrate several predefined events and see a large number of ready-made reports and calculated metrics. We also have specialized events for games. They are also basic and have a clear structure. For example, it's virtual purchase, level up, it's an event that is sent when a player reaches the next level. And there is a progression event, which describes how player passes through non-linear locations and so on. As an example here, we'll look at the virtual currency purchase event. Here we have parameters, purchase ID or name, the type to which this purchase belongs, the quantity purchased, the price, and the currency. If we read this example, it turns out that the player bought an item, one big bank, which belongs to the booster category, for 10 coins. In general, basic events can be integrated quite quickly because the documentation already contain ready-made code and descriptions of all parameters. And the next type of events you can send are custom events. We have already looked at examples of how they're structured. These events are very important to us because they will be unique to each product. Ideally, they should comprehensively describe users' actions in the app. This will allow us to analyze and influence product metrics. And it's important to know the balance of using custom events and not to go to extremes where literally every small action is sent as a custom event, and in that case you might end up with a lot of data for analysis and most of it could be useless. Ideally, we recommend first preparing questions for which you want to get answers, and only then preparing events for them. And by the way, let us know if you would be interested in a separate webinar on events, because we thought about it. It's pretty interesting and I would say complicated topic. You can write if you want this webinar in the chat. And finally, what I wanted to mention here is about user properties. There are standard properties that are collected automatically, such as country, device, app version, and much more. And there is also custom properties. This is where you decide what you want to send. For example, it could be a player's rating or bonuses received by the user, and so on. And that's basically all we collect. And I think we can now take a look at some reports together. And just give me a second. I'll switch to the Dev interface now. Okay, I guess you can see my screen now because I can see the chat. So I hope you see my screen. Okay, this is the Dev interface. And here we have the top and left menus. In the left menu, under the Smart View tab, you can see out-of-the-box reports, which are built on the basic events I mentioned earlier. So by integrating basic events, you can use these reports. And if you take a closer look at the menu, you'll notice that all these tabs follow the user path in the project first. Acquisition, then engagement, and then how the user pays. And let's quickly go through the most basic reports. I'll start with acquisition detailed stats. Okay, this report will contain information we get from the attribution trackers you connect to Devtodev. You will be able to choose various metrics such as ROI, the number of installs, and group them by publisher, for example, and evaluate the acquired traffic. And another interesting point to note is that in addition to selecting pre-calculated metrics, you can choose the conversion to any event. It could be a basic event or a custom one. To make it clearer, I'll show you how we can assess the traffic. For example, we can choose some specific action which we count as target event performed by the user. For example, let it be creating an account. Then we need to select this event here. Give me a second. Yeah, okay, we have it event. Click apply. Let's wait a little bit. Okay. So we see the conversion percentage from each of the channels, and that's how we can evaluate effectiveness. Okay, moving on. The next section we have is engagement, where there are several interesting reports. I'll start with tutorial analysis or onboarding analysis. Let's wait a little bit. Yeah, okay. Here we can look at the basic statistics of how many users completed the onboarding and how many skipped or finished. Also, a bit down, we can see the conversion at each step of the onboarding and assess which step had the highest churn, which could be a reason to make some changes. Also, in all reports, there is option to use filters. We have various filters starting from country, language, and paying user filters. So in the context of this report, let's say we recently rolled out a new app version. So you can choose this version in the filter. Let's say it will be this one. Click apply. And we can compare it, for example, with the previous one to understand how the changes in recent version affected the onboarding process. So here we see the graphs only for the users from the new version. Okay. And the next one is retention, is very important and useful report. I won't stop on it for too long. We recently had a whole webinar just about this report and its capabilities. And spoiler, there are a lot of them. I'll just say that there are different types of retention, and you can also make your own custom one. For example, you can view retention only for those interested in the product. To do this, we can choose the starting event, for example, user registration or login. And let's find which event. Yeah, okay, I guess we can use account created. We can view result. And now we see the report only for those who, for those users who created account. And I get the last report in this section. Yes, I have opened it up. It's certainly not the least important. It's a user flow. With this report, we can assess what users do before or after a specific event in your project. Let's quickly go over an example. For instance, we can choose the starting event as visiting in-game store, for example, and see the tree of the most popular events afterwards. Let me find this event. Okay, shop open, it's here. Let's click refresh. Oh, okay. This will allow us to understand what interests users or why they don't make purchase in the store, for example. We see that most users decided to go through locations, it's progression event, and only 5%, 10% make a purchase. It's subscription in our case. So we can think of how we can influence that. Maybe add some special offer or change the design of game store. A second example is when we can change direction and see what users do before a specific event. Let's change the direction. And I suggest choosing the churn event. This event is calculated automatically with the SDK, so you don't need to send it additionally. Okay, let's find the churn. Yeah, user churn, it's here. Click refresh. Okay, so in this case, you read this report from right to left, where churn is this final point. Also, when hovering, we can see the percentage of users and additional steps if you click on this point. Yeah. So in general, it's an excellent report for investigating what users do in your app. The next section we'll look at, it's the monetization section. And here you can view various reports on how users pay. I guess I'll start with conversion to payments event report. Sorry. Let's wait a little bit. Yeah, okay. Here we can see the conversion to first and second payment, or for example, the time of payment, meaning when users start paying, and also which items users buy first. You can get important information without building complex tables and reports yourself. So everything here will be calculated automatically. And next thing I'll show here is the cumulative IRPU report. Yeah, okay. We can see the accumulated weighted average value as well as data on daily cohorts. Such a report is often used to assess the, Yeah. To assess the effectiveness of advertising campaigns, evaluating how much money a user ultimately bring us, and compare it with the costs of acquiring them. And let's say I'm a UA manager and I can select a filter here and see how a specific campaign performed. Let's find it. Yeah, we have a campaign filter. Let's choose campaign number 1, example. When we click refresh, we'll see data only for this campaign, and we can compare it with our baseline metrics, for example. And yeah, okay. I also wanted to quickly mention our section with gaming reports, where you find data most relevant to games, like how players spend in-game currency, progress through levels, locations, and so on. And I'll quickly show you just one report. It's in the game structure. Yeah, it's player levels. Here you can easily see a breakdown of metrics by levels. For example, how many users are currently on a specific level, or how many users paid at each level, and so on. Let's click your result. Okay, so this is how this report looks like. And plus, just like in other reports, we can apply filters and view data only for players from a specific country. For example, we can click here and let's say I want to see United States. Click apply. And now we'll see how users from United States go through levels. Yes. And so we have looked at some out of the box reports, but sometimes you might have a specific request or want to get some deeper insights. That's where our report section comes in handy, where you can build any reports you want. I'll point out that here you can work with both basic events like payments, etc., as well as your custom ones. I won't go into detail about all the reports because there are a lot to cover, but I'll show you just two, starting with basic metrics. Okay. Here we have a pretty big number of automatically calculated metrics that you can work with however you want and also visualize as before. For example, let's choose metrics, conversion. Yeah, it will be paying conversion and tutorial or onboarding conversion. You can click apply and we can group by channels. For example, let's click your result. Yeah, okay. To make it easier to view, let's change the view type to table and I guess remove the aggregation period. So, okay. Now we see it. And to make it even more easier to read, we can apply conditional formatting to highlight the highest value. Let's add that. Color scale. Yes, I want this red. And this, for example, it's blue color. Yeah, there you go. This way you can highlight the highest or lowest values. And overall, there are many options of building various tables and graphs here. And if I'm a product manager or C-level executive, I can build all of that by myself without help of analyst or anyone else. And let's move to the custom event section. I need to change the project. Just give me a second. Okay. So let's imagine we are working in online store, and we can take the event item page view. I need to find it. Yes. And for instance, I want to see which brand is used most frequently. And we need to choose here group by parameter value and choose this parameter. It will be brand. Okay, that's the result. Oh, okay, I need to remove aggregation period. Okay, so we see that Compass brand is most viewed brand. Okay, now I also want to see the ratings of these brands. Let's add the rating parameter here also. Yes, it's item rating, and click refresh. Yeah, okay, we see the result here. I can't see any interesting information here. Most brands have lots of 5-star compared to other ratings. So, all right, we sorted it out. Next, I want to see the conversion to add into cart event after viewing a product. And here we need to add the second event. Yeah, it's add to cart event. Great. And I will divide one by the other to get the conversion to add into cart. And besides choosing ready-made metrics, it's a lot of here, you can also create your own formula. So right now, just give me a second. Okay, we need to multiply it by, yes, click refresh. Oh, okay, we see the result. So now we can see that the conversion to add into cart is almost the same for each brand. This means we can think of the conversion we consider as the goal and try to increase it. And actually, there are quite a few options of what you can do with your custom events. It all depends on your tasks. And here's another report I quickly show you. It's SQL. If you need something entirely custom and you or your colleagues know SQL, you can use it here. You can write your query here, and a bit down you can visualize it. And on the left, there is a data structure. So each event has a separate table, and you can expand them to see what parameters are available. So overall, all reports from the report section can be saved and added to a custom dashboard, which can be very useful if, for example, you want to gather different reports on new feature in one place. So here is an example of the dashboard. Yeah, you can add here tables, graphs, texts, and so on. I guess my internet connection is not okay, but yeah, we have the graphs here. So we recently had a whole webinar on this topic where I showed how and what reports can be added here. You can watch it if you are interested. And let's move on. The next thing is push notification section with Devtodev. Let me find it. I have it opened somewhere. Yeah, here. Here you can select various conditions. Since Devtodev receives a large number of both basic and custom events, you can use them all as triggers to create a push. For example, we can select users who completed onboarding. We need to find this event here. It will be tutorial. We need to select parameter status, and status should be finish. Yes. This way, you'll send the push notification to users who finished tutorial or onboarding. Or we can send a push if the user have been inactive for a week. Just type here 7 days. Yeah. And after sending the push campaign, analytics for the campaign will be available in the interface. And yes, the next thing is user section. Here we can find absolutely all users from your app. If you need to find a specific user, you can use the filter here. And let's wait a few moments so we can see the list of the user. Okay. And let's select a player and go to their profile. Okay. On the left are all user properties. So find their IDs, country, etc. This information is automatically collected by us. If you click on the custom, you will see a list of custom user properties. And on the right, we see the user's event history with timestamps. So we can thoroughly examine what a specific user is doing in your app. Also, we can click on the event and see its parameters. Sometimes we can't notice some unusual behaviors in the graphs, but we can go to the user's profile and review their events. And if I'm as a developer currently integrating Devtodev, I can check if events are sent correctly in the user's profile. And okay, we almost finished. And the last thing I'd like to draw your attention to is A/B testing. You can create A/B tests in Dev2Dev and analyze the results. Let's click here. Okay, here we can see the results of an A/B test, which goal was to increase conversion. And we can see that group A won. You can also choose other metrics based on which the winner will be determined. And also, if you want to analyze the results in more detail, we create segments that from the A/B test, and then you can use this segment as a filter to analyze the A/B test groups on other reports and even in SQL. So that's about it. Actually, if we want to cover everything we have, we would spend a lot of time. This was an overview of what we have, what events can be sent, and how product analytics works in general.
Thank you,
Yes,
Anastasia. It was super amazing, and hopefully gave an overview of what Devtodev does and the approach to the events. And we have questions. I was monitoring the chat, that's why I know that this question was asked during
okay.
your presentation, so I can take it. And you're presenting user flow report at that moment. And the question is, can we check what actions users perform before making a purchase? And yes, the answer is yes. In the user flow, you can choose a payment event as a final event, and then see which actions users performed before making a purchase. So yeah, feel free to write down the questions to the chat, and if there are no questions at this point, because the presentation was quite thorough, maybe you can contact us, or you have Anastasia's contacts, and
Yes, yes.
Okay, someone is typing. How many parameters can I send in one event?
Yes, you can send up to 20 parameters in one custom event. So yeah, the answer is 20. So again, that's all the questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining. And
And
okay,
please, yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, okay. Please remember that you can book a call with me or ask any question. Just write my email.
Yeah, definitely we'll be hosting more webinars on Devtodev's functionality. As Anastasia mentioned, feel free to write the topics to Anastasia's email, book a call if you have any other questions. So yeah, more to come. Stay tuned. Anastasia has shared once again her email address, and we'll be following up with the webinar recording for all the attendees. So hope to see you next time, and have a great one.
Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.